This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
The biggest icon in podcasting.
Welcome everybody to this week's edition of Doc and Jock. I am the Doc, John Macaroon. Joining me as always, my guy Adam, the Jock Strozinski. We got a lot to break down. So much good stuff happening with the Detroit Lions. Adam and I are going to break it all down. What it means to start the year 3-1, facing off against the Carolina Panthers this week at home. JMO returns. So much good things are happening. But before we get into all that, we're just going to spend a couple minutes talking about this weird phenomenon now that's happening with the reporting about Urban Meyer. It's been crazy. If you're online at all, one of the weirdest things that you're going to see is two people that work with the same company reporting two different things. So it's crazy where a guy like Bernie Fratto, who's been a radio icon, been doing things in radio for well over 20 years, used to work at 97.1, did stuff. We've listened to him all the time. He comes out and says that three different individuals tell him that Urban Meyer has been in town and having preliminary discussions about the Michigan State job. Then you get Brady Quinn, who works in the same company, going, I didn't hear that. And you get a back and forth, and then you get other media members going, wait a minute, from The Athletic saying, that's never happened. And then other media members are like, wait a minute, didn't you report that Michigan State already has their list of top candidates? But there is no list. So the crazy part as a, semi-media guy observing the media, what kind of example are you guys setting where it's been media on media crime in regards to Urban Meyer? It's crazy. Now, let me just give my take on it. Would it be crazy if Michigan State did not call and somehow or another went through any back channels to talk to Urban Meyer? Yes, it would be. You got to do your due diligence just to ask, are you interested? What's it going to take? That had to have happened. You can use common sense. Somebody somewhere in the Michigan State pipeline said and got a message to Urban and said, what would it take? And he's probably like, 11 million. And they're like, okay. And that's probably where it's at right now. There's no real hardcore discussions. And then what comes out is when people, obviously, people also got to remember negotiation, where then a media member comes out and reaches out to Urban. Are you interested? No, I'm not interested. Why would he say that? To drive up the price. I have a good gig. I'm pretty happy here at Fox. For $7 million, if you're offering me $8 million, I think I'll stay at Fox. It's pretty good. I get to, make up bullshit commentary about Michigan, playing Nebraska and pumping up Nebraska because I hate Michigan. There's no real need for me to be accurate. I can just go on TV and say whatever the fuck I want to say. Okay, what about $12 million? $12 million, I could potentially get up off of this chair and do some work. So it's just been crazy to see the wildness that has started to surround the online and MSU Twitters debating each other. It's been crazy. Do I think Urban Meyer is going to land at State? No. I think that you tend to overcorrect when you try and, go from Mel Tucker. You want something a lot more outstanding than what Urban Meyer would bring. And I think, obviously my emotional side would be like, hell yeah. But rational people that have come out online said really smart things. They said, really, what you guys are clamoring for is the Urban Meyer of 10 years ago. That's probably not going to be the guy that's out there. So I got to do more research to try and find the guy that's the it guy right now, because the only guy that's on my radar, there's only two guys, Kirby Smart and Nick Saban, and those are the two godfathers. I want that, because hasn't it been crazy with Twitter? I don't know how much you've seen how wild it's been, but the Urban Meyer, people are tracking his private planes and looking at stuff, and it's been the internet sleuthing going on all around Urban Meyer. It's been fun, entertaining, but the media on media crime is also more interesting going on as well.
Yeah, I think Urban Meyer is a bit of a pipe dream.
Yeah,
it's one of those things where, and look, it's for no other reason than his dirty laundry list is already out there.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like you bore witness to it with with when he was with Jacksonville. There's been a number of different articles talked about with what he did with Florida, what he did with Ohio State. So you kind of know what you're getting into with Urban Meyer. And I think with Michigan State, like you said, there's going to be this overcorrection. They're trying to get a guy who is maybe not squeaky clean, but pretty squeaky clean. You know what I'm saying? Like he might have a little bit of a dirt smudge, but nothing that you can't spit on your thumb and rub away. So you don't, after everything that happened with Mel Tucker, it blew up in Michigan State's face. Like this is what is so damning about the whole Mel Tucker issue, right? This was a guy who the university completely got behind, gave him a ton of power, gave him a ton of money. And within a matter of 2 years, he basically took a dump on Michigan State's chest. So now you're going to overcorrect and you're going to try to find a guy who's not going to do that. You need to find the best candidate who's going to come in, who's got a pretty clean background, who's going to help get this program back in shape and help bring it back to some relevancy. It's not going to be a guy like Urban Meyer. As much as Urban Meyer would be awesome at Michigan State, as much as that would make people like you go absolutely bananas and crazy, it's not going to happen. And the reason it's not going to happen is because Urban Meyer has shown what he is. He's a guy who likes to really walk that line, has a habit of crossing over that line, getting into some dirt, going out recruiting players who aren't necessarily always on the up and up. You look at Aaron Hernandez. He's a guy who he himself has his own troubles. And if I'm Urban Meyer, do I really want to go back into that grind? We've talked about it before when we've talked about NFL coaching jobs compared to college coaching jobs. College coaching is 275 or 24/7, 365. It is nonstop. You are constantly recruiting. You are constantly trying to get kids into your program. And then when you have the kids in your program, you're trying to keep them accountable. You're trying to make sure that they're not doing things that are getting them in trouble or making the program look bad. It is a nonstop job. This guy sits on TV, makes anywhere from $7 to $11 million, and just kind of throws stuff at the wind. And if it sticks, it sticks. If it doesn't, we come back next week. He puts on a set of shades and puts on a suit and sits on set and talks to Matt Leinart and talks to Mark Ingram and talks to whomever, and they just kind of go from there. If I'm Urban Meyer, why would I want to come back and do that? And why would I want to come back to a program like Michigan State that has been basically left for ruin by Mel Tucker? Why would I want to come back and engage in trying to rebuild this? You know, that's a lot of work. That is a ton of work. Now, all that being said, I'm sure MSU would give him carte blanche, let him do what he wants to do if he was to say yes. But again, I don't think MSU is going after him. I don't think MSU is even on his list or even on their list. And like you said, I don't know if that list even exists right now. I mean, it's October 4th, right? We're recording this a day before it gets released. So it's October 4th. You're listening to it on October 5th. I don't know if MSU is ready to even delve into that coaching search. I think right now they are starting to maybe compile a couple of names and are maybe looking at a few people. But I don't think Urban Meyer makes that list. And you're probably right. There were some back channel talks like, hey, how much would it take for you to even accept a phone call from us? And like you said, probably $12 million. And I don't know if MSU wants to pony that up. They just ponied up a ton of cash for a coach who burned them. So I don't know if they are even speaking the same language right now. So I think Urban Meyer's a little bit of a pipe dream. And I don't really know if you're MSU, if you really want that coming off of Mel Tucker's stain. I just don't know if that's the direction you head.
Yeah, and everybody's just excited because Swamp Kings was really good. It was really well produced. It kind of skirts some of the major issues that would probably
that sports washed sports washed Urban Meyer so much.
It did.
It didn't cover any of the dirt, any of the real grind.
Right. It made him look really like the greatest thing since sliced bread. I was like, oh man, this is great. This is something to do with a movie. So it was crazy. But yeah, Michigan State, I just think people are so frustrated at how bad it's going to be. We're all waiting the ass kicking they're going to take from Ohio State and Michigan, and the disappointing loss that they just had to Iowa was just brutal with all the mistakes that they were made. So people just want what is perceived to be one of the great coaches. And whenever you got a ring and you get a ring with multiple teams and multiple situations, it just that thought gets you really excited. But yeah, absolutely. The facts, this is a situation in which don't let the facts get in the way of a good story. And everybody's romanticizing what Urban Meyer could do, the rivalry, the drama, the circus, the chaos that it would create, the rivalry that could be now developed with Ohio State and Michigan. It just would be crazy. It just seems too good to be true from an attention standpoint. But what would likely end up happening is the expectations would soar crazy into national title situations, and I think Michigan State would be set up for a letdown. But they do need a good coach, man, and I got to start digging into more of it because just the team has just been a major turnoff, and that loss to Iowa was crushing. I actually, for some god-awful reason, I said, I'm just going to sit and watch this game. And I'm sitting there watching going, what the fuck is this? I mean, turnovers, the play calling, Noah Kim.
I was going to ask you, how disappointing has he been? Like, this was a guy who beat out Peyton Thorne, and he was supposed to kind of, I don't know, get the program to that next level. And he hasn't been able to really figure it out. He's been quite disappointing on the field, in my estimation.
Yeah, disappointing. He's just not a college quarterback that you would expect now is going to lead Michigan State to anything. It's just tough. He's still developing and things like that. And it's just a football team that just needs a steady quarterback that's got elite talent. You need top, in the Big Ten, you need a top 5 quarterback. And right now he's a bottom 5 Big Ten quarterback. Too many turnovers, not enough, success. And it's just unfortunate. And I think if, Harlan Barnett wants to be wise, he should just sit Noah Kim and go to somebody else. Because I think the team recognizes, okay, we're not going to win a lot of games with Noah Kim under center. It's just been disappointing all the way around in regards to the fact that you played pretty decently during some stretches, but not good enough to win a game on the road in the Big Ten. And it's disappointing because we might have already seen Michigan State's last win in 2023. But in the end, most people are just turning the page and looking to the future and to say, hey, who's the next guy? And the names, cuz I don't know if you've seen there was, I forget off the top of my head, there was a list of 12 guys that's an entity put out there. And I was like, I'm not impressed by anyone. Hartline is okay, but he's never really done it before. And the rest of the guys, I get there's a couple that have had experience, but none of them go, oh my God, I'm going to buy season tickets. So it's just going to be a long road, and you realize it's a complete teardown. So you're looking at 2024 being a wash before you get your guys in, and then 2025 is going to be tough because it's just the second year of your program. So it's just going to be a hard road for Michigan State, and that's the unfortunate situation that they got going on. And
do you think Michigan State goes back to maybe looking at Luke Fickell? Luke Fickell was the guy who they wanted before Mel Tucker. He ends up going to Cincinnati, does some good stuff at Cincinnati, and you get it, right? Like the way Cincinnati is viewed, they're not viewed in the same respect as a Big Ten school like Michigan State. Does he maybe establish himself with Cincinnati, gets them to the college football playoff, and does he maybe now transition and maybe accept that MSU job? Do you think that happens?
Hey, if you offer $11 million to anybody, they'll consider it. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see where it goes. I do think it's going to be a long, drawn-out process. Again, the only thing that would make me maybe get a little more excited if something happens with Saleh and he decides to go coach college, but it doesn't make sense because he's such an elite defensive mind that I think he'd get a defensive coordinator's job or even jump into another job if things go completely south. But I don't think they will. I think that the Rodgers situation, the fact that his team still fight and he's a defensive guru, it just hasn't been working out on the quarterback side. I think Saleh would be the natural fit in terms of mentality, what could work in college. But I think that he's got NFL cachet and will stay in the NFL.
Yeah, I don't see him leaving the NFL anytime soon.
Absolutely. So it's just interesting to talk about media on media crime. It'd be like literally me reporting something about the Lions and then you going, my people don't tell me that. And we're in the same company. It's kind of funny to see, but it is kind of expected when each media outlet has 50 people working for it and everybody's got their own agendas. And when you're counting on sources, I'm sure somebody told Bernie Fratto, and I'm sure multiple people told him because it's self-serving. It helps Urban Meyer to also leverage like, oh man, if I'm on a 1-year deal with Fox, and it gets out there that another job is out there, I could go from $3 million to $4 million. And that's great for him. To be coveted, it's great to put that information out there. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out moving forward. But let's move on. Good segment there talking about Michigan State and what the hell's going on with the chaos about Urban Meyer. Because the game against the Packers last week was all that everybody wanted it to be. It was an ass kicking in the first half. It was a quality standout performance. You had to grind in the second half because obviously the Packers did turn on the Jets a little bit to make it a little bit more competitive, but the Lions took over Lambeau Field with the Blue Sea. Really nice to see that kind of performance to go 3-1, and it lets you start to believe, honestly, this is a real football team that when they turn on the Jets, then there's an opportunity to compete at the highest levels. And when you see that defense, I just thought right there, man, that defensive performance is worth acknowledgement when you realize the Lions aren't blitzing at that much of a high rate, 17%. That indicates that the four guys up front are winning their battles at a high rate, and they deserve a lot of credit for really flying around. On a Thursday night, I didn't expect that kind of performance. I knew they had a chance to win, predicted it, said it in a lot of places, but I didn't think it would be that convincing. I thought that the Packers would make it a closer game and be like a 7 to 10 point win, but they dominated on a lot of aspects, and they just looked hungry. They looked like they were supremely confident, and it's just nice to see good football. And just in the Dan Campbell era, to start the year 3-1 has been so impressive. What impressed you the most about what you saw from the Lions?
Yeah, look, I think this was an awesome victory for this team, and a lot of it was with how they won, right? The offense quickly took charge and was doing a lot of really good things and putting points on the board and moving the ball around. And then the defense took over, and the defense helped win this game. And then in the fourth quarter, the whole team came together, and they played outstanding football. And it wasn't like it was just one guy. It was units of different guys putting up impressive performances. You look at the D-line, like you said, getting to the quarterback, and you're not even blitzing. You have your guys in position where they are just beating up. It's 1v1, and they are just outworking the guy who's in front of them. That's awesome to see. You go to the offensive side of the ball. You've got a quarterback who is making passes, a quarterback who is throwing blocks, a quarterback who is doing everything he can do to help this team win a game. And then you look at the run game, just grinding you down, grinding you into a pulp and taking advantage of you when the fourth quarter runs around. And David Montgomery had such an impressive performance. And he is a running back that gets stronger as the game goes on. He is going to beat you up for the first three quarters, and then he's going to take advantage of you in the fourth. So I was thoroughly impressed with this game. Oh, I didn't even mention Jerry Jacobs. Jerry Jacobs had 2 picks. Yeah. Like Jerry Jacobs has been a guy we've kind of poo-pooed on a little bit, but he had a hell of a game. And look, you're getting it with guys who aren't your starters or aren't the guys who are penciled in to be your starters. We talked about depth a couple weeks ago. You're seeing the depth of this team, and they're able to get things done. I think what impressed me most about the victory is it was all phases. This wasn't one of those games where the offense had to go out and put up 45 points for you to win. This wasn't one of those games where the defense had to basically shut out the other offense for you to come away and eke out a victory. This was a very impressive game on all sides of the ball. Special teams contributed. I think the one part of this game that really had me nervous was coming out at half, Green Bay seemed to take charge quickly. And I think the one thing you can say about Detroit is in that third quarter, they got punched. And they got dazed a little bit, and then they got their jaw back, and then they punched back. And then they ended up landing knockout blows after getting beat up a little bit early in that third quarter. And I think that was impressive. How nervous were you in the third quarter? Because they come out at half, immediately march down the field, put points on the board. I believe there was a pick six. I don't know if that was in the third quarter or the second quarter, but there's a pick six. And then after that, it just kind of was third and out, 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out. And Detroit ends up collecting itself and really dials it up in the fourth quarter. But how on the edge of your seat were you for that third quarter? Because I was like, oh my God, here we go. Just like that PTSD from being a Lions fan started to seep back in, and I was like, I'm so nervous right now. Please don't blow this game. Please don't blow this game. And they didn't. It was great. But those doubts started to creep in. Did you have those?
Yeah, of course. When you're like, oh boy, what's going on here? And you realize, okay, it was going to be competitive. And once the second half hit, it was just so one-sided in the first half. You had to be able to weather the storm. But guess what they did? They were able to, once they got their bearings, they had a nice, I think, drive there where they gave the ball to David Montgomery and held the ball for a good 7-8 minutes and got a touchdown drive and were able to kind of weather the storm there later in the third quarter going into the fourth. So it was a good game, and it goes to show you, too, that the Lions can handle ebbs and flows. I mean, Goff throws a pick on the first play of the offensive series for the Detroit Lions. They just come back, and the defense picked them up. And that's what you would expect now, is that the Lions don't exactly have to be perfect. They did make a little bit too many mistakes, but I think that's also great when you got a football team. This is what's enticing. You got a football team that's 3-1, but hasn't played nowhere near consistently clean football. And you recognize, oh my God, what had me scared the most was those pissant officials that were calling shit that was like, the thing that got me the most scared was when the clock hit 000 and nothing happened, and you're like, oh no, not again. But I do think the league or whoever made it up to the Lions with that Green Bay Packer jumping on his teammate and trying to block the kick, because it was so weird, that play, in that it happens and everybody's kind of moving on to the next thing, and all of a sudden they go back and they go, we were calling a penalty. Somebody called down there. Somebody said something like, we can't blow this. This is bad. This is a rule. This is a major violation, whether it's from the top, the league. Somebody said, we can't do this. And they maybe evened it out. And once that happened, I said, okay, this is a break in the Lions' favor. And they went on and took advantage. So a football team that can overcome some mistakes, that doesn't have to play exactly clean football. And you do have to give, in context, the reason I was confident going in, and it's the same reason I'm going to be confident this week, Jordan Love is still raw. And Aaron Glenn is going to outmatch Jordan Love most days in his second year. Jordan Love's a good quarterback. Dude's averaging 25 fantasy points every week. And he can't even crack my lineup that's scoring 150 points a week. But in the end, when you have talented dudes like Isaiah Buggs, who's hungry, who knows what it's like to get benched, which was beautiful psychology. When you got John Kaminsky, who's hungry, and Aiden Hutchinson, and linebackers that just want to showcase what they're about. Man, when you're playing, cuz number one rush defense in the NFL, are you kidding me right now? It's this one defense is for real, right?
I seen a stat that they are giving up basically less than 1 yard before contact. That means the running backs getting handed the ball, and then they are on them, popping them in the mouth. Like, yes. that is crazy. This defense has been so damn impressive, and it's scary. It's almost like it's not real, but yeah, their defense is legit. Their defense is getting the job done. The one thing we talked about coming out of the offseason was we need to add another defensive lineman. We need to add somebody else. Maybe they had it figured out the whole time. Maybe we didn't, because what we're seeing right now is crazy impressive. You've got a team that pressures the quarterback more than just about anybody in the league. You've got a team that contains the run and basically bottles it up to where guys aren't really able to get anywhere. You've got to run through 3 or 4 dudes to scrap out a yard or two. And you've got a secondary that is playing above average. I'm not going to say secondary is playing great, but you have a secondary that's playing above average, getting turnovers, and helping flip the field position. This defense has been so damn impressive so far. So impressive, which leads me to this, because when I was watching this game, the thing that really stood out to me was Brian Branch. Brian Branch is so impactful for this team. He is a complete difference maker. When he's on the field, that defense looks and runs so much better. He is a game changer. I got really nervous. I got really scared when he went down with his ankle injury, and then he gets back into the game. I'm excited, and then next thing you know, he's hampered by it. Going forward, how concerned are you about the ankle injury? And what was your concern level watching this game when he goes down? Because you can't tell me that there's a difference when he's on the field and when he's not on the field, because there's a monster difference when he's out there.
Yeah, he's got a defensive swagger, man. He knows what he's doing. And rookies don't do that, especially in the secondary. And you get the sense that, oh, man, he's like a Devin Witherspoon. He can make impactful plays. And, man, cuz could you imagine Devin Witherspoon and C.J. Gardner-Johnson in this defense?
God.
Dude, he's like – and I do think legitimately that if he was there at 6, he'd be a Detroit Lion. And no doubt about
sure.
That talent was off the charts. But you look at it and you say, okay, the Lions understand Aaron Glenn's defense. They understand what Dan Campbell is looking for. And they understand that Dan Campbell called him out. Dan Campbell, after that Seattle game, was a grumpy, ornery coach that was getting on his assistants and telling his players, look, he's not going to come out and be like, I need Aiden Hutchinson to stand up there and get me sacks. All he said was, in a Bill Parcells manifesto, which was so great, it oozed Bill Parcells, it oozed Sean Payton. He says, I need my most reliable guys to be reliable. And that's that. He stands up there calmly, cool as can be, and says, we're not winning one-on-one battles. I think it's going to happen, but I need my most reliable guys to be reliable. And that's directly at Aiden, directly at Charles Harris, directly at Isaiah Buggs, at the linebackers, and those in the secondary. He's saying, boys, you're here for a reason. You didn't play well against Seattle. Maybe our game plan wasn't exactly where it needed to be with our coverage being so soft and not as aggressive. Go out there, win your battles, and see what happens. And we saw the fruits of that labor. And Brian Branch, once he came back and they did the tape job, it kind of indicated, okay, more ankle than Achilles. You're always scared of Achilles injuries. You never want to see that. But it does lend to a discussion point here. Do you think they should have just kept him out? Because it felt like he was okay, but then got hobbled a little bit more with his own efforts. Sometimes you just got to protect the player from himself. And when you're talking about high ankles or whatever the extent of the injury is, and you're looking at a player with that much upside, sometimes it's greater to take the long view. We need Brian Branch weeks 5 through the rest of the year than the early part when you realize around the corner we're playing Bryce Young and a team that hasn't won a game. We can kind of take it easy a little bit and get to 4-1, and we could even stash him for a couple weeks if we take an L and go 4-2. That's still pretty good after 6 games. I think they made a little bit of a mistake tactically by putting him back in the game. They should have just, hey, tape it up, let's ice it up, let's get on the rehab step 1 right now, and we'll figure this out.
See, I think you needed him to play.
Yeah.
With the way that game was it felt like that game momentum was teetering.
Yeah.
And again, he's just a monster difference maker. Like when he's out there, that defense just is so much more efficient and is so much more dominant. I think he's a guy who you need on the field as much as possible. And I think at that moment in that game, and look, we talked about this last year. One game makes a hell of a difference at the end of the season. You need all the games you can get, and this is a divisional game, so they're that much more important because it's one of the main tiebreakers if you end up getting tied with somebody else for a playoff spot. I think you needed him. I think he had to play. I think the moment he went down the second time, you have to yank him then. At that point, the game is kind of already in hand. There's no reason for him to be out there. You've kind of stymied their momentum, and you've kind of taken parts of the game back. There's no need for him to be out there. Now you protect him from himself. But I think putting him back in, one, you could see that defense kind of lifted its chest up a little bit more. That defense played a little bit faster, a little bit harder. He's a guy who, we always talk about the guy who wears the green dot on his helmet. It's usually a linebacker. He's basically your green dot. Like, he's a guy who is so influential with where everybody lines up and making sure everybody is on their job. I want you this week to watch him. Watch him when he plays, okay? When he's out there, everybody is basically in position and is where they need to be. When he's not out there, you tend to have breakdowns. That was how Green Bay ended up scoring one of their touchdowns. You had Melo Fonwu out there, and he got crossed up. And next thing you know, there's a receiver leaking out behind him that ends up getting a pass and scores the touchdown. So watch when Brian Branch is out there. He is a guy who keeps that secondary completely accountable. On top of that, he helps that second tier with those linebackers because he's usually playing that nickel or he's playing that dime corner position. He is unreal, man. Like, steal of the draft. I don't know if we give Brad Holmes enough credit because he was just sitting there. Anybody and everybody could have took him. This dude has a football mind. He is a football player, and the dude just goes out there and plays and makes plays. And he is, at this point, I say he is the heartbeat of that defense. That's how damn impactful he is, and that's how much he means to them. So I think he had to go back in at that time, just because where the game was, it really felt like it was kind of teetering for me. So I think he had to play. Speaking of bouncing back from basically missing games, you got Jameson Williams coming back this week. What was your takeaway with Dan Campbell's comments on his expectations for JMO? It really sounds like he's not really putting a whole lot out there as far as what he needs from him, but it seems like it was a coded message almost. Like, I need you to be accountable. I need you to be a professional. You need to go out there and do your job. We're winning without you. We don't necessarily need you. So make yourself worth it to this team. That's kind of what I was reading in between the lines. What did you get from Dan Campbell's comments?
Yeah, it's absolutely interesting because I disagreed with it a little bit. It's that I see it and I said, okay, I understand the goal would be reliable, understand exactly where you got to be on certain routes. But at this point, it kind of needs to be a little bit more. Like, that looks like a level 1 goal. And after a year in the system, that's something that kind of should be locked in by training camp, even if you miss time. To me, the job description basically to enter to be drafted as a wide receiver is we give you the play, you understand where you got to be and what the concept is. And that's what you kind of can learn in meetings. In my estimation. Now, on field, yeah, it can be tweaks here and there, and maybe the finer points of like, okay, if the cornerback is doing this and you recognize zone and the deeper level communication can be moved forward, and you can definitely work on that. For me, I would have liked if Dan Campbell to be like, because he actually specifically said it, if you go back and listen, he says, for him to have a good year, it's just being reliable, being where you need to be, and run proper routes, not yards, not touchdowns, not explosives. I would have said we need Jameson Williams to be an explosive player, help this offense, be an integral part of the reason why we win, and that's the player that I need him to be the first round pick that we got in term. I need him to kind of in some way talk to Jameson through the media. We need the first round pick that you see out there. You see other first round picks doing things and excelling, and now we believe that after Jameson's suspension, we got a player that's going to be hungrier and is going to go out there and help this football team, help the offense and Ben Johnson do some things. That's all you got to say. You don't got to say he wasn't doing it. You got to say we expect what any first-round talent that we bring here would need to contribute, which is being an explosive player, being somebody that lives, breathes, eats football, and that goes out there and lights up the score sheet. That's what you need. I mean, that's what will help the team win. And I understand, and it does for me, and let's I said, this is all speculation on my part, not reporting. And being that we're wrestling fans and being where I tie this from, it just kind of has a feeling like the Lions kind of want to keep the stock down so that the price can stay low. Nobody's bigger than the team. And in the wrestling world, you don't let anybody become John Cena because then you got to pay him $40 million a year. And it seems like that with the Lions. It's kind of like, yes, we love our players, but we're not going to let anybody become a superstar, because if we let anybody become a superstar, then the price goes up. And that's just me being the way I think. But it just kind of has that feel of like, and I think on the grander scale, it's more like the team. Nobody's bigger than the team. He'll work within the confines of the team. But damn it, he's a number 12 overall pick. He's a first rounder. He can be the gold chain wearing dude if you just push him to do it. And that's where I look at it. And I say this whole take it slow approach just doesn't align with what we've seen in the National Football League, especially when you got Garrett Wilson, you got Jamar Chase in year 2, when he was there doing his thing. Guys have flourished pretty fast, but the Lions are taking more of the, hey, get in line and be part of the team. And I get it. I can get maybe a lot of the advantages to doing that, but I think that you let the dude, free JMO, let the guy cook, because if you let him cook, he's going to get you 10 touchdowns, and you don't teach that kind of speed. And I do think it's going to come, but I don't think that Dan Campbell wanted to put that extra pressure out there publicly. But I just didn't see the way I didn't see the disadvantage of doing it that way, but I get it. Dan Campbell that's his old school side coming out.
Do you think that they're like in-house, the expectation is higher than what has publicly been stated? Do you think Dan Campbell and the offense, the offensive coordinator, the offensive team has this expectation of J-Mo coming in, maybe not this first week, and maybe not even week 2, but by the time week 3 of his return rolls around, he's out there actually making plays. He's an integral part of this offense. He is the guy that they drafted him to be. Do you think the internal expectation is there, or do you think it's more of what Dan Campbell said? Because Dan Campbell's a pretty straight shooter. Just show up, be on time, essentially show that you are a professional football player. Do you think it's that, or do you think there's a little bit more there internally?
Ooh, I think internally when I see Jameson Williams, I do think that it's just the combination of the intricacies of Ben Johnson's offense. And here's the problem, and here's the issue that he's going to have publicly, is you got a guy that is so abnormal and such an outlier that Amon-Ra St. Brown is doing it right in front of our eyes. 200 catches. Jameson Williams should just lie and said, I do 350. Like, how would we know? You know what I mean? Like, that's the little bit of that gamesmanship that I would like. He sits there in front of the media and he goes, yeah, I got a jugs machine. And he's and the media naturally is going to ask, oh, how many catches did you have? He should have just said 300. He should have just lied and just said, I do 300 because Amon-Ra is a player that I respect greatly and I got to meet his standards. You know what I mean? You got to have a little bit of that. I want to be the best. How are you going to declare that you do less than the guy that's balling out? You know what I mean? And that's the problem, is that Amon-Ra is a freak. Amon-Ra is a motivated, dastardly individual that is so pissed off that he was drafted in the 4th round that he's the Tom Brady of the Lions, in that he doesn't care what he gets. I got 3 catches, I dropped the ball, I'm pissed. And people want Jameson to have that. And maybe he doesn't, but he's trying to work towards that. And remember, too, the guy's got millions in the bank, so the hunger level is not there, as opposed to a 4th rounder who Amon-Ra is on. If you look at what the Lions are paying Amon-Ra, it's the steal of the century. And what we're paying Penei Sewell. So it's just a little bit different in that the hunger might not be there, but he's got to show it a little bit, and he's got to express it in such a little bit more of a way so that the fan base believes he's working hard. Because right now there's a public perception problem. I do think he's motivated. He wants to, and I'm glad he said that it bothered him to see the team take the field against the Chiefs and him not there. It bothered him. And hopefully he uses that to be able to start this, because he can't have another stop-start. He's got to play 13 games. He's got to secure something for this football team. Because look at it. With J-Mo and Gibbs taking the next step, now we're talking about some more goals here beyond just winning football games and winning games in the regular season. If J-Mo and Gibbs pick it up in the second half of the year, cause now you're talking serious business here, being a legit number 3. So I see it happening, but it's hard to be patient in the National Football League. It just really is. Like, I don't want to wait until they play in the second half of the year. I want to see Jameson Williams play well now, but it's not going to happen. He's only going to be targeted a handful of times. Same with Mosley. Taper your expectations. The Lions are not going to just throw people out there. They like to cook things very slowly, low heat, until they realize this shit's going to be good, and then they crank up the heat. And that's just the way they're going to do it. And I'm sorry, everybody. Do not start Jameson and Gibbs this week in fantasy. Sorry, do not. Just do not. And I think despite that, they don't need it. Against the Panthers, you don't need it. Even though they had 10 days off, I don't see a letdown this week. I think that the Lions are good enough at home, young quarterback, the revenge factor, that the Lions don't need Jameson. It's a perfect scenario to debut Mosley and Jameson this week.
Yeah, I think what you end up getting is a team that learned its lesson the first time around, right? They learned their lesson from the Seattle loss. This is a team that shows up, and I think they take advantage of a very young Carolina Panthers team, and I think they're rested. I think they are focused. I think they're dialed in. I think this defense has come a long way, and I think this defense is going to make things incredibly difficult for the Carolina Panthers. I think the Lions end up dominating this game from Jump Street. I think the offense takes advantage of Carolina's defense, and I think our defense takes advantage of Carolina's offense. And look, don't be surprised if you see a special teams TD here or there.
Yeah.
I kind of agree with you with not starting JMO. I think he's going to get slowly worked back in. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if he's not worked in. He maybe gets 5 snaps in the first half, and then he is getting more. I don't want to call it garbage time, but I'm going to call it garbage time. He gets more garbage time when this team is up and he's out there running routes and he's getting kind of reacclimated to everything. I do not expect him to play a major part in this game, but I do see the Detroit Lions winning this game. And I do see them maybe bringing a little bit of a revenge factor to this. Remember, Carolina was a team that absolutely stomped a mud hole in Detroit last year, ruined their chances to get into the playoffs. So I think the guys who were on that team last year, there's another little bit of a motivating factor there. And I think they kind of bring that on Sunday. So I think it's going to be a very, very interesting game. And I think Detroit wins it. I think we'll all be very excited. I think the line right now is like 9 or 9.5. So I'm expecting Detroit to win by 10 at least. So I think Detroit wins this handily, and I think it's a very good game.
Yeah, I can't wait. It's going to be fun. Ford Field will be rocking 5-1. Maybe start with the opportunity to go down to Tampa Bay with the Blue Sea traveling, because 4-1 start would be spectacular if they beat Carolina. Then they go on the road to Tampa Bay. The game got flexed to 4:25, and there's whispers too that the Chargers game might end up being on Sunday night because the schedule for that game is just terrible. So you might max out the Lions in primetime. I'll be honest, those later games are a little bit tougher because you got so much to do. The 1 o'clock starts, we got spoiled last year in the media. It was all 1 o'clock, all done by 6. Handle your business, get to enjoy a little bit of the weekend. But these 4 o'clock, 8 o'clock games, bro, I left Arrowhead at 1:30 in the morning. And that's going to happen again potentially on the Monday night game. I was looking forward to a 1 o'clock Sunday on the 15th. I was like, yes, 4:25, it's okay. Me personally, I'm being selfish there, but it goes to show you that the Lions are catching the attention of the league, and they don't want to put shitty games on television, and the opportunity is there to have 2 4-1 teams face off against each other in what could be a really, really good game. So it just speaks to where the Lions are at. They're gaining attention, and the blessing of having 2 Thursday night games is you had 2 days on a Friday following big wins where the league is just talking about you, how good you are, what's going on, David Montgomery shining, Jared Goff going and rubbing it in the face of Ryan Fitzpatrick. Dude, that was slick. That's the kind of way I would do it if people were talking shit about me, and that's how Jared Goff did it. It was amazing. He's like, I didn't know I was a poor man's anything, which is funny because you kind of assume that those kind of things players don't talk about, but Goff's going to say it. He said it to another player, and I'm proud of Goff for doing it because, of course, he hears it. They all hear it. They all know everything that's being written about. They just say they don't to try and be coy. But this football team is taking advantage of the attention that they're getting, and they're smart about it. I'm on Ross St. Brown doing podcasts, a lot of endorsement deals. These guys getting out in front of the camera, being willing to talk. This is the most open locker room in the 5 years I've been in there. You know what I mean? And it's great. It's a good opportunity to get to know the players a little bit, and it's a good opportunity for the Lions to take advantage of the business side of things. Now, what makes it special is that it coincides with playing well on the field. If they were just social media darlings and they're getting their ass kicked on the football field, that's no fun. But when Dan Campbell says we're going to bite kneecaps, and then they go out there and they blitz and they play well and they have a defense that can even win battles with just a 4-man rush, this is an opportunity for the country in what could, I don't know if it's going to be America's game of the week, but it's going to be featured in a lot more slots than it would have been at 1 o'clock. It's just tougher for me, but man, because the country's starting to see, man, this football team is legit. And I think once you see that, cuz, I don't think it is out of the realm of possibility right now to declare it's the Niners, it's the Eagles, and it's the Lions. Those are the top 3 teams, in my opinion, in the NFC. And that bodes well if you can get a little bit of injury luck or play well and peak in the playoffs. It bodes well for the Lions having a chance because defense always travels.
Yeah, look, I think that was the whole reason that this game was flexed. It's going to be America's game of the week. I think the Bucs are playing incredibly well right now, and obviously, I think America's kind of fallen in love with this Detroit team, and that's what this is telling you. Also, if you look at the way, if the NFC playoffs were to start right now today, you basically have the Bucs and Detroit in third and fourth place, and the Bucs get third place because they've won more games in their division. That's why that divisional game against Green Bay was so important, because it's the first tiebreaker. I think this game is. I think at this moment in time, they're expecting the Bucs to win the South. They're expecting Detroit to win the North, and this is a bit of a collision course. So we're going to put these guys on in a primetime spot on Sunday at 4:25. It'll be America's Game of the Week. America, you want this team. You love this team. You've embraced this team. Here you go. Go watch these guys duke it out. And I think that's kind of what it's telling you. At this moment in time, if you are a Detroit Lions fan, if you're a fan of this team, this is awfully uncomfortable for you, because you don't ever really get the praise. You don't ever really get the love. And whether you realize it or not, you have through 4 weeks, you basically have had 2 primetime games. And going into week 6, you'll have essentially what you can consider as a primetime game. You're one of the first teams to be flexed to a different time slot, so the nation can see you. So that tells you what you need to know about this team. And I think the way Dan Campbell and the way Brad Holmes has built this, it is sustainable. This is not one of those flash in the pans. This is not a Jim Schwartz, Jim Caldwell era team where they get hot for a year, bubble up, make the playoffs, only to get popped and let down the next season. You can see the growth with this team, and you can see the development, and you can see how they built it and what they want to do. And I think they've done a great job, and I think they've done it right, and I think you're going to be rewarded with a lot of primetime games. And I think this flex to what I'm going to deem the America's Game of the Week, I think this is basically kudos to that.
Yeah, it's kudos, man. It's been fun. How fun has it been just being a Lions fan to cheer and to have a lot of good plays and have David Montgomery pound the rock? And cause here's the best part. It's like you're getting 2 new players in the second half of the year, because Gibbs will be better, more explosive. He'll be understanding a lot more. And if you really want a nice breakdown, check out All Lions. Austin Eckler, in another great podcast series, has a podcast, and he just openly talks about, here's what David Montgomery's doing great, and here's where Jahmyr Gibbs looked like a rookie. And it's so detailed. He goes into the details into breakdown, saying that, oh, this is why you play a veteran over a rookie, and it's really good. Gibbs is going to be better, and you're going to get guys back healthy. Oh, my God, I can't wait to see Kirby Joseph back, potentially. We're going to get to see Emmanuel Mosley. You get to take advantage of the real skill set of Jerry Jacobs, maybe in the slot, or spelling Emmanuel Mosley. Man, because this football team has a chance. It's been really fun to see and to cover a good football team for a change, and I think this is my first opportunity to cover a good football team. And let me tell you, it is a lot much more advantageous to cover a winning team when you can break down strategies and lineup decisions and game flow and stuff like that than it is to talk about motivation and moral victories. And it's just so much better to work and do podcasts and cover a team that's winning. I've had the most fun I've had. I mean, just to share a little bit on the inside, Jack Campbell appears to be a tough cookie to crack. Used all my skills. I think he likes the doc. And I think he liked the feature I did on him. Maybe he even liked the video I showcased, the joking around of him and his significant other yesterday in the locker room. And I kind of am the same way with you as I am with anybody. I see him, and at first you kind of make small talk and stuff like that, and you just talk about, after you get the formal interview stuff. I said to him last time, I said to Jack, I said, I saw you trying to dance. It looked like you were flexing, but you didn't kind of have anything. And he laughed, and he said, I was trying to, but I was trying to I said, listen, you can do your thing next time. We'll be looking for it. So he laughed and chuckled, and he is a little bit more relaxed in the locker room. So yesterday, he's walking bare-shirted, looking like a man that if he tackled me would shoulder tackle me to the ground and I'd be flopping around. He's walking, and I look at him, and he looks at me. He extends his left arm and slaps me and gives me the high five with our left hands. And as I said to him, I said, man, Cooper DeJean broke my heart, bro. And he's like, man, Cooper DeJean's a game or a dog. And I said, he looks like a gamer, doesn't he? He's like, yeah. He's like, man, I went to state. He broke my heart. He just laughed, chuckled, and he kept it moving. So it's a lot more friendly to talk about with these players other stuff besides football, and they're more receptive. Very little denials. It's a lot more, even with a guy like me, who they have to know is willing to write anything. So it's been a lot more fun and receptive to spend 45 minutes in the locker room with guys that win than it is when they're trying to scurry out when they lose. It's just been fun. I think this is probably the most fun we've had talking about the Lions in a good 6-7 years.
It absolutely has. It's been weird talking about a winning team and a team that you are excited to watch every single week. Like, Detroit Lions football is appointment viewing. You are making sure that you have nothing going on a Sunday whenever they're on, or if they're on a Thursday, or if they're on whatever day. You're making sure you're watching Detroit Lions football right now. Look, I get up extra early in the morning. The Thursday night game, I stayed up through the entire thing.
Oh, man.
I stayed up for the entire thing. I went to work the next day, and I had the assignment directors at the different news stations making fun. They're like, somebody a little bit sleepy, somebody stay up a little bit late watching some football. And I was like, I did stay up late. I did watch some football. I feel better than I thought I was going to feel. But still, I'm not missing a snap is basically what I'm telling you. That's how good this team is, and that's how excited we are for this team. It's been awesome. It's different, man. It is a different feel, a different buzz in the air. It's really cool to have a good football team that other teams, other cities, other players are respecting. It's weird. It is weird to be respected by the league.
Yeah, it is. It is. And that's why no letdowns. Keep like Ali McNeil said, I asked him, what's it feel like to be 3-1? He's like, we haven't done anything. He's like, we got to keep our opponents, we got to keep on their necks moving forward. And this is going to be something special because they got the right mindset. They take after their coach. They take after Dan Campbell, and they're going to play hard. I do think the Panthers are going to be desperate. They're going to try to get that first win, but the Lions, if they play a clean game, clean up the mistakes, take advantage of what they can take advantage of, I think you're going to see a victory and another happy situation. 4-1 start, home playoff game, man. It's going to be special at the highest levels. And thank you guys again for your support. I really do appreciate those that understand the jokes. They understand what the Twitter page is trying to do. I think the funniest thing that I see, and thank you guys for also standing up for us. We've built it to the point now where if a from state like me puts out an anti-state joke and someone's like, oh, you're just scared that Michigan State is going to be, you're just scared that Urban Meyer is going to be there. And I'm like, this tweet is hilarious to me on a lot of reasons when I'm making jokes. And then other people come in and say, guys, this guy went to state. He is clowning on his own school. Stop it with the stupidness. So I love that. I love the fact that you guys get the jokes. A lot of you understand the sarcasm. You get that we're having fun with this. Sports is supposed to be fun. We tell jokes. We're not serious. I've never intended this to be serious. I intended it to have fun, laugh with my guy, be who I am through the extension of the Twitter page, and to just have fun with it in a fun way. Basically, for those that follow us, I'm shooting, baby. And I'm shooting on a great level. And no works here, baby. I'm just shooting, having a good time and doing a good thing and having fun with the fellas. And any opportunity that you can, hit us up at Detroit Podcast. Make sure you message Adam at Adam R. STROZ for great sports content, great sports takes. And thank you guys again for downloading and listening and supporting the project, because it's going to be a good week. Is Michigan playing this week? Are they on the bye week? Are they doing anything this week?
I don't know. Not really paying.
I know
they haven't played anybody.
I know
they haven't played anybody this year so far.
I know. I know State's on the bye week. I just think that Michigan might be on one too. I'm not sure what they're doing.
They might be
Michigan football. Let's see what they got going on this week. Even worse. Road game at night versus Minnesota.
Oh, there you go. That's what it was. Yeah, they're playing Minnesota. Yeah. So there you go.
Yeah, that's Michigan State.
They had a really good game against Nebraska.
Yeah.
But Nebraska's nobody to write home about. And before that, they've played nobody.
Yeah.
And Now they're going to go on and they're going to play Minnesota, and hopefully they take care of business against Minnesota, and then we'll reevaluate after that. But, like, look, if you're a Michigan fan, you can't get hyped about what you've done so far because you haven't done anything. I think the most impressive win is the one that they just had against Nebraska.
Absolutely.
And that was because they showed up and they took care of business, and that game was basically done after the first quarter. So, look, with Michigan football, just kind of wait until we get to the middle of the season and stuff starts to get a little bit hairy. Really and truly, I'm waiting for the Michigan State game because I know that you are a little bit checked out on it, but I think that's going to be a very good game. The rivalry is always nasty. There's always a lot of animosity. There's one game that a beat-up Michigan State team can get up for. It'll be that game.
Hopefully.
And I think they'll bring the best out of Michigan, and Michigan will bring the best out of Michigan State.
For you Wolverine fans, Minnesota, Indiana, next 2 weeks. Enjoy! Let's get out of here, cuz. And next week, we're going to bring it on again. We're bringing the noise, spreading like a virus all over the internet airwaves. Can't wait to record the next edition of the Doc and Jock Wrestling. Can't wait to record the latest and greatest edition of Doc and Jock.